looked at each other in the same way then. Can't remember where or when. The clothes you're wearing are the clothes you wear.
Hello, I'm Bill Boggs, and in just a moment we're going to share the first television interview ever with Mr. Frank Sinatra. Now, before we meet him in this new way, consider for a moment the phenomenal success of Frank Sinatra. His career has spanned 40 years in show business. He's received all the awards: Oscars for his film work, Emmys for his television specials, Grammys for his records, and scores of humanitarian awards for his not often publicized philanthropy. Today, he stands virtually alone at the top. He is the world's most sought-after music attraction. History will record him as one of the great performers of the 20th century. How can we account for the enduring success of this man from Hoboken, the son of Italian immigrant parents? Why has the romance of Sinatra and his music and the people of the world not dimmed? What is his secret? Singing with real emotions. The strength of this penetrates and touches each of us in a private way. What makes him such an extraordinary artist is the joining together of his technical skills and his natural gifts, a passionate voice, musical intuition, and above all, what sets him apart is his sensitivity and his insight into life. This interview was recorded after he completed his recent concert engagement at the Uris Theater. And here we are, a conversation with Frank Sinatra. What I'd like to ask you about is how you feel after 2 solid weeks every night at the Uris Theater.
I'm numb, but it's a nice numbness, Bill. It's been you know, with all of the engagements I've ever done in my lifetime and so many different kinds of places, this theater had a special effect on me because it was, sound-wise, it was perfect for me. The orchestra, as you know, you were in there several times, was sensational.
The sound was great.
But more than anything else, it was a love-in. It was every night was a complete love-in with the people. And it was like coming home, is what it was like.
Being back in New York?
Yeah, just like being back in New York, coming home again.
There is something I've wondered about for a long time about you in terms of that very statement, a love-in. To go around the world, to come out into a coliseum in any part of the world, to have it filled from ringside to the rafters with a wall of people, all of whom have come distances to see Frank Sinatra, all of whom love Frank Sinatra. The effect of this on you as a man, not as a performer, you know, just as a human being, can you measure it in any way, Frank? Can you assess?
Well, that's tough. It's tough to measure. It's so overwhelming that there is that much affection.
Yeah.
In an auditorium, let's say, or a theater, or wherever it might be. As you say, some of the places are, you know, wall to wall and 7 stories high. Sometimes I look up, for instance, when I play, let's say, Philadelphia or Chicago, or any of the places where they have the enormous arenas that go straight up in the air. I look up and I don't quite believe that there are people way up there who I must look like about...
I've been up there, you know, years and years ago, and you do. I have binoculars to prove it. Do you ever feel like a gladiator coming out into the arena, almost as if...
Oh, no, I'm scared. I'm not one of those gladiators. No, not at all.
I took my mother to see your show this past Friday night, and my mother was with you as a bobby soxer at the Paramount, and she said, it used to take me 4 movies and juggling acts and all kinds of variety to get this close, because we were on the 5th row. And when it was all over, because my mother was really moved by your performance, I said, take me back, Mother, to the Paramount, and tell me what there was about Frank Sinatra then that captured people so much. And my mother said, because he sang with real emotion. And that leads me to a question.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I believe, as a person who has loved you and seen you perform many times, that these are, in fact, real emotions that are coming out of it.
I think they are. I think after I've chosen a piece of material that I feel that I should be doing, particularly something in a serious vein, you know, a ballad of some type, or a slightly dramatic thing like Ascend in the Clowns, I think it has to do with something in your background that comes forth. It comes forward, and it presents itself, and rather than just reading a piece of poetry, as would be the case if it were a poem with someone else, McCune or one of the guys like that, I, as a singer, have to do it in that sense. So I tried to transpose my thoughts about the song into a person who might at that moment be saying that to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know precisely.
He's making his case, in other words, for himself. And I think that, I don't know where it started. I have no idea where it started in my life. But I think that I've worked in that vein always, all the way back with Tommy and before Tommy. When I was a kid, just kind of, working from one small joint to another.
I have to ask you, because I've wondered, and I've never read, and I've never had any insight into it, about you as a kid. Your father said to you, get out of the house. Now, you've mentioned that practically every night at the Eurus, in a loving way, and also in a funny way, because you sound like Archie Bunker when you said it.
That's true.
How did you feel, Frank? Literally, your father saying, get out of the house.
I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. I didn't know.
Do you
where the hell
remember the
to go.
moment? Do you remember the?
I remember the moment. We were having breakfast, and I was supposed to have been gotten up that morning to go out and look for a job, because I decided that I didn't want to go to college, and he wanted me to go to college in the worst way. He was a man, as you heard me say, could never read nor write his name, and his big point was education, complete and full education. And I had planned to go to Stevens Institute, which is in Hoboken, and it's considered one of the finest engineering schools in the world. And I was going to be a civil engineer, as a matter of fact. I had great desires to be one, until I got, mixed up in vocalizing, but not to go ahead for a minute. He got a little bit fed up with me, because I just wasn't going out looking for work. But at night, I was working with little combinations, singing with the bands, for nothing, so I could get the experience. And with a megaphone, you wouldn't know what that is. It's
Rudy Valley.
Rudy Valley. That's what you sing.
You
for.
actually used a megaphone?
I had and guys would throw pennies in to try to see if they could get me to swallow the pennies. A lot of fun those days.
That's right, with shot glasses.
But I used to move a great deal, like this, so they couldn't hit it. But it was great fun. And he, at this particular morning, said to me, "Why don't you just get out of the house and go out on your own?" Is really what he said. Get out. And I think the egg was stuck in here for about 20 minutes. I couldn't swallow it or get rid of it anyway. My mother, of course, was nearly in tears, and but we agreed that it might be a good thing, and then I packed up a small case that I had, and I came to New York.
All or nothing at all. That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well.
Did you project things for yourself? I guess that's another thing that I think a lot of people have wondered. If any individual achieves a measure of success in life, as you have, was there a point along the line when you saw what might happen as a potential thing, or was it just a natural flow from point to point?
No, only once in my life I saw something that might happen, or I had tried to plan it, and that was to get to sing as a vocalist with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, because
you had that as an objective.
That was an objective. I wanted to do that in the worst way, because I thought, after watching all of the other orchestras who were equally as marvelous in those days, one band was as good as the other. They were different styles, and excuse me, they had fine singers with all the bands. They had the Everleys, and Jack Leonard was with Tommy in those days. And but I used to go and watch. I'd go, for instance, if they did a one-nighter at Roseland, I would buy a ticket, go in and stand at the front of the bandstand, and watch the band and watch how he handled the singers, and they were handled with such finesse and showcased. In other words, it wasn't a matter of an introduction, vocal chorus, orchestra, and out. He would set a singer up so that the singer would sing the first chorus, the orchestra would play a small piece of music, a turnaround, and the singer would finish it. In other words, he was featured. And I thought, and also Tommy had such, he had a simpatico about vocalizing. I didn't know that at the time, but I found out later that he did, because the instrument that he played, the trombone, had the same physical qualities that the human voice has in the way of execution, like a flute player would have. And not as much, for instance, as a trumpet player or a saxophone. There's something quite soft about a trombone when it's played well. It's like cello. And I found out later, after I'd been with the orchestra for a while, and he also found out that I had been trying to find what his secret was about his playing 10 measures.
His breath control.
Yes, his breath control. And after I was with him for a year, he said one night at, I don't know, at Carnegie Tech, some college date we were doing, I used to watch his back, his jacket, to see if when he would breathe, but I would never see the jacket move, and I thought, he's got to be breathing someplace, because
through his ears, maybe.
Through the ears, someplace, and I used to kind of lean around and just peek and see if I could. But you see, in holding the instrument, he covered his mouth, and then covered the rest of his face with his hand, with a slide, and he put the horn down at this particular night, and he walked over to me and he said, "Haven't you seen it yet?" He knew that I had been watching him for about a year, trying to figure it out. And I was working on it in my own way by just doing physical exercises, breathing exercise and things like that. And, for instance, I'd go, if there was a chance, we'd go swimming someplace. The guys would say to me, "Don't you ever swim on top of the water?"
I read that once. I read that you actually swim underwater.
I used to swim, and I still do. I swim mostly underwater to keep the bellows as strong as you can. And he said to me, "Haven't you found out yet?" And I said, I don't understand it yet. I don't quite get it." And he showed me that he had a pinhole that he used in the corner of his mouth that he could catch a catch breath. And by doing that, he could go an additional 2 measures that made it seem like he played, 10 to 12 bars without breathing, which was exciting to hear. It was really, it would keep you breathless as a viewer. It would keep you breathless. It kept me breathless when I watched him. And later on in years, people would say to me, "When do you breathe?" I said, that's the thing you have to find out about.
You know, I was in Las Vegas last Easter time, and I saw a performance. That's, in fact, when we first met. And I saw the show, and I saw Frank Sinatra at, I guess a year or so out of retirement, whenever it was. And I said to Bill Miller, whom I had met on another occasion, "I've never seen Frank in such good physical condition and in such good vocal condition." And I think at the Uris Theater, you went through however many, 18, 20 performances, night after night. The people I was with and the people I spoke with said Sinatra is solid as a rock, vocally. I mean, is solid, night after night. Well, what happened after retirement? Well, it's like a new level you're on.
When you saw me after the so-called retirement, I was struggling. I was really fighting my way out of the doldrums, because when I quit, I let everything go, and it all fell down. It's like somebody who lifts weights and you stop it for a while, or you stay in, or a football player.
We can all understand that about anything.
And I was having a tough time at that time. I mean, vocally trying to do what I wanted to do, but I was working very hard at it. And what the outcome at the Uris Theater was purely what it was in the very beginning of anybody's career as a singer, for the moment to speak, as vocalist. It was the same thing. It was a matter of consistency. You do it every day. The greatest training that any youngster can have today, if he really wants to become a pop singer, obviously an operatic singer has to go through a different kind of training.
Formal kind of thing.
Right. But it's the same situation. You must sing all the time, every day. And one of the things that I think is sad about the new school of singing is that the kids have nowhere to go to. There are no orchestras who do one-nighters 300 days a year, where you work every single night and you're learning something, and you're learning. If you have a tendency to want to go into the acting business, which eventually I did later on, you begin to learn to use the lyric of the song as a script, as a scene, in other words. And I didn't know I was doing that at the time, but I was doing that.
How much do you consider Frank Sinatra, at this point, a man who is continuing to grow as a performer? You could easily rest on your laurels, but you haven't. And I think what you did at the Uris Theater, according to all the reviews, was like a new level for Frank Sinatra.
It was just hard work. I don't know
Yeah?
what I did differently.
No?
It was just a lot of hard work. It
A
was
lot
just
of concentration.
and choosing the material that I thought was best, and also material that you think your audience wants to hear. And strangely enough, that's an interesting situation to stop and talk about for a minute. You oftentimes, I find myself oftentimes thinking like a baseball pitcher when I'm performing.
Really?
I will turn around and say to Bill Miller, skip the next two tunes and go to the third one, because there's something about the audience that's not, I'm not getting any vibes from anybody, so we'll go to something that might grab them a little bit more. And in short, you throw a knuckler, and you throw a slider, and you throw a fastball, and that way it kind of, it not only amuses them and entertains them, but it mystifies them a little bit. They don't quite understand why there's switches, big switches like that.
You will be my music. You will be my music.
Can you comment at all on, for you personally, the emotional gratification that you get out of doing what you do?
No.
Going down all the different roads in musically, on the stage, the happy stuff, the sad stuff?
No, it's tough, Bill, to comment on that, because I think if I got into that, I'd wind up on a couch.
Oh, no,
That's
that's
not
not,
to do that.
that's not the point.
No.
Not the point.
I think,
But we have a couch.
yeah.
And you'd be more comfortable.
I do believe, though, that when the result is such, for instance, if I do the medley of the saloon songs, or a single 2 o'clock in the morning kind of song, and you get a response from the audience, you know that they've been there.
Right.
That's the time that I feel that I'm fulfilled, that they have been there. These are not all youngsters, not all kids. These are grown-ups who have experienced some form of sadness that they hear in the song, and it brings it back to them, you know.
To me, when you walk out on stage and begin by singing the opening line of Where or When, it seems we've stood and talked like this before.
Right. Yeah.
Not only are you making, I think, a musical link with people because it's a great standard, but you're also making almost a mystical kind of link with the people who have, as I and as practically everyone in the audience, had been with Frank Sinatra, whether it's a record player at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
or,
I never thought about it as from the lyric standpoint, but after we had been open a few nights, I thought to myself, that's a pretty groovy idea to open up with this song. But it didn't happen to me in the beginning. I did it because it was a basic arrangement that we had done with Bill originally. And it swings so great, and it's deceptive. It's quiet, and suddenly the end of it explodes.
It explodes, and how did you like working with Ella? I thought that at the end of the show, it was almost like a magic veil being thrown over the whole evening with you singing with Ella.
I love working with Ella. We've done it before. And she's, Ella Fitzgerald is as good a musician and vocalist, I think, that we, in our lifetime, and for the next 100 years, anybody's ever going to hear. Because she is so free, she thinks so freely, and she's so wrapped up in what she does that's all she ever thinks about. She's like Benny Goodman. Benny Goodman only thinks about the clarinet. Basically, is what he does. I don't mean he's a very bright man. He's a very erudite man too. But his life is the clarinet. He once said to me, I said to Benny once, or rather, I asked him a question. I said, why do you? He was off in a corner at a benefit where they had about 25 orchestras in Madison Square Garden for Christmas Needy or something, many years ago. And he was away off in the corner. Everybody was kind of sitting around having a snip of booze or something like that. And I walked over to him, and he was just kind of quietly noodling. And I said, every time I see you, Benny, you're practicing. Why do you do that so often? He said, purely because, Frank, he said, so that if I'm not great, I'm good. And I never forgot it, because it's true. If you work hard at it all the time, and you have a slow period, whether it's your own emotional problem at the moment, or you're lazy, something happens one day, and you say, well, I don't feel like working as hard as I did last night. You work, and it's still good. It's better than the other guy, in other words. It's never below the standard. And I tried to live up to that. When he told me that, I thought, what a marvelous way to put it.
Who have some of the other people been whom you at various stages of your life, have drawn something from in terms of professional or personal inspiration? Or
Well, in the way of singers, I go back to Mabel Mercer, Billie Holiday, Bob Everly, Jack Leonard. When he was with Tommy, he did some marvelous pieces of phraseology that went on and on for. It was fascinating to hear him do it. Men like Robert Merrill, who was probably the
wonderful.
Greatest baritone I ever heard.
Absolutely incredible.
Now, every once in a while, when I feel that I'm faulting myself, we meet and we do a clinic, and he straightens me out about something.
Really?
Yeah. When I come to New York, we meet, and I don't do it often enough. I'd like to do it more often, but he's busy too, and I don't want to hang him up by just trying to, making him a teacher.
How do you feel when you, on the radio, hear any number of other young singers who sound like you, who, in terms of their phrasing, or you can say to yourself, not in an ego trip, but you can just, because you recognize music, say, well, there's a person who's been influenced by me. Does it give you a boot, or does it kind of make...
I usually think and say to myself, when did I record that? It's that kind of thing, because some of the kids have come so close to it that if we were talking in a room and a radio came, or something came on the radio or a record player, I almost in every case stop for a second to think that is it me, or if it is, when did I record that song? I don't remember it. And then there's the other side of that when something comes on the radio, or somebody throws some, which always embarrasses me, by the way. And if I go to somebody's house
and they play your records, I would never do that. I would never do that. If you ever come to my place,
I can't stand
I'll never
it.
play your records.
I say to people, if you play the records, I'm going home. I'm going to leave, because oftentimes I was a little impatient from time to time in making a record, and said, that's it. Press it, print it. And there was one little note in it, and every time I hear that record,
comes back to
if I'm in my car, I cringe before the note comes, and I think to myself, why didn't we do it one more time, just one more time?
How do you feel being a grandfather?
I love it. I've never been so
really
excited, yeah. And Nancy's she's already informed the family she's going to have another child in April. This is coming April. But AJ, also the fact that she's the first grandchild and the first great-grandchild for my mother.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I wish my dad was around in these days. Wish he was alive, because he'd have been out of his
How
mind.
does your mother relate to your success, Frank? All these years of women screaming...
She's the big hit.
Yeah.
She thinks she's the big hit.
How's she feeling?
She's fine. She's 81 years. We're 81 years old Christmas Day. And she's in fine shape. She lives next door to me in Palm Springs in the desert. And she really, if she were here with us now, and she wanted to say something about me, she refers to me as Frank Sinatra while I'm sitting here. She'll
Frank, your mother?
Yeah. She'll say to you, Frank Sinatra was on the show last night. Did you see him? Like, I can be sitting right here, but she uses the whole name. She wants to be sure that everybody knows who she's talking about, And I'm the only son she ever had, which makes it terribly funny.
Dream away, child. Let your dreams run wild.
Mister.
Child, let your dreams run wild.
Yeah, I know you're very close with your mother. Yeah. Very close, and she's been beautiful to you.
But to get back for a minute about our grandchild, she's really out of her head. She's out of her skull completely.
Does it somehow make your view of the future different, knowing that you have a grandchild who will, survive you, go into the next century?
No.
Not at all.
No, it doesn't. No. I just figured that I'm going to be there too for a while.
Is it true that in the year 2000 you're going to give a birthday party?
The biggest birthday party that anybody's ever seen, the year 2000.
Do you have any idea where it's going to be? Roman Coliseum, perhaps?
Probably, someplace like that. Maybe in the middle of Manhattan.
You have not been able to, and then there are other people like was Elvis Presley or Bob Hope, or a number of people in the business who really can't do some of the things in public that you might like to do. By that I mean, when you sing in Ladies a Tramp, like to go rowing on Central Park Lake, go to Central Park, walk around, take a walk down Madison Avenue, do some of the things that simply because you're one of the most recognizable men in the world, you can't do. How do you feel about that?
It's a common ailment, I think, in anybody in public life, which you've now been dealing with it long enough.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think if you handle it carefully and tastefully, it can be done. I don't mean that you can go, for instance, if I wanted to go to Coney Island for an afternoon, that would be bedlam.
Yeah.
Be absolute bedlam. Or if I wanted to go to, I don't know, you know, someplace where you're just very close all the time. Now, I can go shopping. I can walk up Fifth Avenue or Parker Avenue and go in and out of shops, and people say, hello, how are you? It's fine. Sign an autograph, fine. That's never any problem. That's a great delight, as a matter of fact. That's great flattery. And I know performers who will be nameless who just refuse to sign an autograph, and I don't understand why. I really don't understand why. It's a simple thing to make somebody happy.
They'll treasure it for...
It's not a big thing to do. It's a simple thing to do. Then you have the quiet moments. For instance, many times through the years, when I'm in New York, I like to take a walk at night when there's nobody around.
So do I.
I love to take a walk up Park Avenue or Fifth Avenue. Just take a walk and look in the windows. And there are other strollers, you know, and they say, "Is that really him? What's he doing walking around this hour of the night?"
Is that guy singing in the wee small hours of the morning?
At the dresses
Actually, Frank Sinatra.
Saks Fifth Avenue, you know.
Wow.
But you do that, and then of course there comes the other side, which is, by the way, Bill, very rare, extremely rare, where you get the rude cat. You get the bad guy who comes up when your steak is about here on the fork, and he says, could you come over to my table for a minute? And you say, would you mind if I let me finish this and I'll come over as soon as I can? Or you say to him, would you please get away from here? I'm going to have the guy throw you out of the restaurant. You either get that blunt with him, or you say to him, may I finish my dinner? And I'd be delighted to come over and say. Now, that's terribly rare, because most people have better sense than that. They really do. And I have never, in all of the years that I've been, since and I say publicly performing, I have to guess since like 1935, I have never been heckled. Never in all my lifetime. Never. I've had fun with people talking to them in the audience.
Scream out a lot of things.
Right. But there's never been a moment when somebody said, you stink, why don't you get off? Nothing like that.
How about the flash bulbs? I wondered about that.
Well, I only worry about that when we get in and out of an automobile or come out of a restaurant where they get this close.
It's not good for you. It's not good for your eyes.
Well, they get very close. Yeah. I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid it might hurt me. And I don't want to hurt my baby blues, because, you know, they're red enough as it is from time to time. But I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me when I'm working, because you become remote. I make myself remote. And there are moments in performing that I noticed a lot of people have never learned to do. And again, I'm trying to explain things to you that I don't know where it started in my head or how it started in my head. But if in a theater, for instance, if someone runs down the aisle with a camera to take a picture, like the yours, let's say,
that happens,
which is the most current moment, I will wait where I am for a moment and see that he gets it, so that he doesn't stand there. If you let him stand there, he's going to hurt the performance. And he'd also have people behind him start yelling for him to sit down. So what you do is you hope that he'll take the picture right away and then move away, and then he'll go away.
Before a performance begins, when, you know, within the next 2-3 minutes you're going to be performing, what do you feel about your own, say, obligation to the next hour and a half of performance? Is that clearly defined in your head? Like, do you have a point that you relate to? This is where I go from here to here?
Yes, I do. It begins, number one, by a physical condition. This. What is this like right now? I've got 10 minutes to go on. Have I vocalized enough? We vocalize, for instance, about an hour and a half a day, every day. We break it up in stages just to keep the muscles.
Which is what you weren't doing during your retirement. When you say,
I know. I wouldn't even hum for anybody when not a sound that I make, so that the whole thing fell down. You see.
Didn't you on that for 1 second? During your retirement, didn't you actually miss singing?
No, I really didn't.
So it took that.
I had a great time when I didn't work for that. It was under 2 years. I had the most wonderful time of my life, because I wanted to stop working for a while.
I deferred there for a second, because I was talking to you about what you were doing to prepare for a performance, how you feel about your obligation. You said vocalizing more.
Well, first of all, I hope I keep thinking to myself, am I warm enough? Am I really ready
Fluid,
to pitch?
yeah.
You know, really ready to pitch. Or should I go, we've got 10 minutes, should we run into the dressing room and get hold of Bill Millen and sing 4 or 5 minutes of exercises? And at times, even if I don't need it, it gives me an extra added sense of security.
Yeah.
I'll go up to an F and hit it once or twice and know that I'll never use it, but it's there if I need it.
Yeah.
In other words, I vocalize in a sense of measurement about like that, but I only use that area, the middle area.
How does it, can you just show us what that sounds like? I don't want you to sing a song, but I mean, what?
No, it's
you
just a matter of sounds. We sing scales. Well, it's not ah. Ah is the wrong word. Ah sound is goes.
Not good, and ah is not good.
No,
so that shows you how much I know about vocalizing.
No. Never sing ah. You sing ah. U-H. Ah. That's a cough up the roof of the mouth into the mask. If you sing ah, it goes back into the throat and it can break. It can snap. Now, that's my first vocal lesson with you.
Now, I'm ready.
And you'll get a bill next week.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. You will be my music.
If you had to look back at the many things you've accomplished, are there...
Something would be catching up with me, I'll tell you that.
If you had to check out all your film work, for example, is there one piece of it that you're more proud of than anything else? Dirty Dingus McGee?
Yeah. Kissing Bandit. No, I think I've said this to people many times, and they kind of laugh behind their hand a little bit. I've said publicly to friends and people in general that I thought that I won an Oscar for the wrong picture. I thought I should have, in all fairness, won it for The Man with the Golden Arm, not for
You were
me.
nominated for that.
Yeah, nominated. But I thought if I deserved a prize ever, it should have been for that picture, because I felt that I did the best work I ever did in my life on film in that thing. And I liked Detective, the thing we shot here in New York. Yeah, I thought it was a marvelous story, and I thought the character was a good character, the man himself, Leland. Maggio, of course, was something that I worked on it, but I knew 100 Maggios.
You were, in a sense, Maggio.
I knew 100 Maggios in my neighborhood.
Is it true, you know, you read so much, you don't know how much is true, how much is not true. Is it true that you were in Africa and you had the book From Here to Eternity? It was, you know, admittedly a low point in your life.
Right.
That you were just projecting yourself into that part, that you flew back to the United States to get that?
I had the book before that. I had the book before that. And I was in Africa on a visit. And I had read the book and reread the book, and it was a big book. But I loved it, by the way. It was a hell of a book. And I think it was, I think Jones has never been as good since that time. Some came running, came very close to it, but not as good as Eternity. And then I spoke to Harry Cohn, who was then the head of Columbia Pictures, who was a friend, by the way, and I said, I'd like to play that. He said, well, you've never done a dramatic role. You're a guy who sing and dance with Gene Kelly. And I said, but that's the kind of thing I think I can do. And, or I'd at least like to try it. He said, well, let's make a test. And I made a test. The scene was the barroom scene when I went AWOL.
Yes.
When I did the drunk scene with the and that was an amazing afternoon, because Zinnemann, the director, said, I said, well, what do we do? There was nothing in the script. I said, what do we do here? He said, well, you ad-lib for about 2 pages. I said, ad-lib for 2 pages? Nobody can ad-lib for a quarter of a page.
And plus, you're in a brand new situation doing that kind of thing.
And he said, well, do something. You know, what would a drunk do at the bar? And I said, well, drunks do a lot of things at bars. So I worked out some pieces of business with a couple of olives, with the dice and all that. But that was a test, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I went on the trip. Then I went to Africa, as a matter of fact. And I got word that when I heard that Eli Wallach, who's my dearest friend and one of the finest actors in the world, when I heard that he tested for it, I said, forget it. Yeah. He's going to win it, because he's a seasoned actor, and he's really good, fine performer. And one day I got a call to come back, that they decided that I was going to get the part. And, well, you know, it's been written many times. I would have done it for nothing.
I know.
Because it was something I really understood, just like Man with a Golden Arm. I read the Orgren book 15 years before the picture was made. Nobody wanted to, well, first of all, in those days, the censorship wouldn't allow a picture about drugs. They were deathly afraid of it. And consequently, Preminger, who is a guy with great courage, tremendous courage, and a real hard head, he said, we'll make this picture. He called me and he said...
Ludwig, you mean?
Yeah, Ludwig. He said, would you like to play Frankie Machine? And I locked the door so he wouldn't get out of the room for fear he'd change his mind. And I worked on that, and I did some research on it, on what happens to people when they handle it cold turkey, and I saw that, and I never want to see that again. Never. I was allowed to see it, and it was the most frightening thing I've ever seen for about 40 seconds. I had to walk away. It was a peephole. And I saw a youngster climbing a wall, and I said, I never want to look at that again.
Yet by doing it yourself, I think you brought it into a lot of people's same perception.
The misery of it.
Yeah.
We wanted to show the misery of drugs, is what we wanted to do. Obviously, we wanted to show the misery of it, and not to be involved in drugs in any sense.
Why do you think so many young people are taking drugs, Frank? What do you think? Is it a cultural thing, societal thing?
I think it's a protest. I just think it's the word protest. I really do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of things that the kids are doing today is really based on a kind of a protest. You know, I can't say what the language really is because we're on the air, on the tube, but that's what they're saying to everybody. It's the system. It's generally, I think they're really unfair in a small sense that they're taking the entire framework of the system and hating all of it. Well, you can't hate all of everything. You've got to like some part of it, I think, anyway. I'm a man who doesn't generalize, by the way, ever generalize. And I feel that that's what they've been doing, but I think it's lessening today. I know a lot of young people who are children of families, friends of mine, college age, high school age, and I talk to them a great deal. And I find that they are beginning to not be as militant, to use a word, in their speech when they talk to you. They're quieter now, and they're getting older.
I think there may be a sense that they can affect the system from within, maybe a little bit.
I wish they would more often begin to think that way, because they're tomorrow. They're the future. They really are. They're going to run the country and the world.
All or nothing at all. That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well.
How about your future? Could you summon up the same kind of interest for a film part that you had for...
Sure.
You could. It would have to be the right thing coming along.
Something came along today. I've been reading, in the past 6 months, I've read maybe a dozen scripts that were not... I'm not about to go out and get drunk over any of these scripts, but they were interesting, and... I mean, the hook was a little bit in my mouth in a couple of them, but then I said, no, it's not really what I want to do. If I'm to do one, it should be something extra special if we can find it. And it'll come, I think.
Do you have anything in mind at all as the kind of thing you'd like?
I'd like to do a comedy. I'd like to do a very funny picture. A real funny picture, something that Simon would write. A guy like Dr. Simon.
Is Neil watching? We can get the message to Neil.
He's in California. He's moved now.
I don't think we'll have any problem with that at all.
Well, he's a playwright, and I don't know whether he would write specifically for the screen, which is what I'm only interested in, not stage work.
You've come to the aid of a lot of people. Maybe I should just take a moment and tell the story, because it was the first time I saw you. Really had affected me a lot as an individual. It was 1960, and you were working the 500 Club, Skinny D'Amato in Atlantic City. And I was working my way through college, didn't have the bread, particularly to get in to see Frank Sinatra, so I went in through the back door dressed as a busboy.
You were the guy.
I was the one, right? And I just set up the tables and did what I had to do.
Funny.
Whatever I had to do, and Joey Bishop, I think, was the comic.
Funny.
And I walked around and stood in front of a pillar, and at the time the show went on, took off the white coat, put on the long tie hat, sat back and relaxed, and enjoyed it. And then something happened like later that night. It was really interesting. There's a friend of mine named Norman Steinberg, who was a contemporary at the time, who is now in charge of comedy development for Paramount.
Right.
You came out the back door. It was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Norman's a guy about this tall. And you said, "What are you doing up here so late?"
I might have done that.
That's right. You
It
did.
always bothers me when I see kids, people bring children out to a club at 2 o'clock in the morning. That kind of bugs me a little bit.
How do you feel about the various bistros, the places you've worked, that you won't be back to the 500 Club, you won't be, the trail of your life through some of these places?
Well, they belonged at the time. They fitted into my plan, into my scheme at the time. But now they've gone by the wayside. As a matter of fact, there are very few places performers can work anymore. You work in Miami during Easter season or Christmas season, and then after that, there's very little work down there. Vegas is probably the most consistent place to work. New York should be one of the major places in the world to work.
You made it sparkle. You pumped some air into the fire of New York nightlife.
I don't know if we did that, but I do know that when the Copacabana closed, it was the end of a great era, of the so-called cabaret era, where all of the names in show business worked. Everybody worked there. The Waldorf used to be a marvelous place to work. But there are not any rooms in New York. Somebody should really build. Years ago, when you were a little boy, there was a club the other side of the Washington Bridge called the Riviera, which was the most beautiful club to work in. It was just to the right of on the Jersey side. And I worked at the Rustic Cabin, which was up the road from there. And on the way home at night, we'd stop and stand outside the back door and listen to the Dorsey Brothers Orchestra. And I was thrilled just to look at this beautiful room, and it was mostly summer business, and the roof used to slide back. Oh. It was so romantic. It was a great age at the time. And there's no reason why there isn't a club like that in New York City today, because every performer who works Las Vegas would like to work New York at least 3 times a year. Yeah. So figure how many people there are who would work. It would be loaded all the time.
You think we should have legalized gambling in New York or New Jersey to give it that same kind of attraction? The uniqueness?
Well, I don't know if legalized gambling that would bring in.
It would bring in people.
It would bring in people. It would bring in entertainment, because they also lean on entertainment. But I don't know whether legalized gambling is the answer to all problems. I don't even know whether it would help the fiscal problem right now.
One of the things you were saying on stage, which I thought was very interesting, and it got a great response, and I think it surprised a lot of people who put you in a category of, just being pals with Agnew, that you're not thinking in a lot of different directions. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You were saying that if the U.S. would give New York 1/3 of the amount it gave to 2 in Vietnam, it would solve our problems. And you meant it, and you got a great response from all kinds of people.
I don't see why that shouldn't be done today. I don't understand why it's not done today. And I'm not against giving foreign aid or help to other nations who need it, who desperately need it. I'm against giving them firearms. I prefer that they give them medical aid and food. But I'm against the firearms because we keep talking about peace in the world. Every time you pick up the paper the next day, we're shipping armaments to somebody else, someplace in the Far East.
And money is going out of the country.
And the money is even secondary. What we're doing is we're giving them tools of war, and we're still talking about trying to make peace in the world. Kissinger keeps going back and forth on the trolley car to make a peace, and in the meantime, we're giving Jordan airplanes, Israel guns, and
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense.
It's something that's pulling the opposite way.
I think it's also part of that general frustration we were talking about before, and people have a sense of being frustrated over the general condition and priorities. I guess that's the one word I would say, priorities.
Maybe that's what it's all about today.
What are at this point in the future, your priorities, personal priorities?
I don't know. I guess I'll just keep working until I get just weary enough not to work anymore, or the minute a vibrato shows up in my singing, that's the time to go home. Yeah. When it begins to go like that, that's the time to go home.
Well, it's been solid as a rock at the Uris Theater.
I loved it. I really had a great time.
You did.
And I loved being with you today. And I think that, this is the first time I've ever done a
something?
talk show.
I said to people, they said, what should we do? What should we do? I said, let's just have a situation where Frank would feel comfortable, because I knew you hadn't done it before.
I've never done it before.
And it was my intent just to share a little bit.
You've been, I must say, and I want to, before I leave you, I want to say that you've been a great champion. And I figure that it's the old adage of treating people as you find them and reciprocating. That's really what life's all about, I think.
I appreciate that.
If a guy hurts you and you've got the feeling you want to hurt him back, you hurt him back. But if you don't, if he helps you, you help him.
I would like to, if we could, maybe just close with this one thought. For those who, and if we could possibly have a glass with anything in it, is what I need for this. For anything. Water, fluid. Water, anything.
You know water is dangerous?
Two, please.
You can start with a Johnstown flood.
Listen, I drink very little water. Any rate, this is what I'm saying here. On stage at the Uris Theater,
Thank you.
each night, Frank Sinatra offered a toast. And it was a meaningful toast, I think, to everyone in the audience. And for those who did not have the benefit of being able to get into a totally sold out 2 weeks at the Uris, if you would perhaps make that same toast to all of us now, I think.
I'd love to. My toast is simply that I wish everybody who is viewing us, or even if they're not, if they just hear about it, I wish them thousands of times more that I've gotten in my life. I've been a man overly rewarded in my lifetime, and that's not buttering anybody up. It's a fact. And I appreciate what's happened to me, and I wish everybody in the world much more than that. And I wish everybody in the world a lot of sweet things and pleasant dreams and soft touching, hugging, and kissing, and peace in our time.
100
Cheers.
years to you, Mr. Sinatra.
100 years. To the birthday party.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear, I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way.
Now, from General Electric.